ka gane ko don haka jama'a to ni nan kuma me an ce min ko da ga shi ko an ce ana kashe barayi kan mutum kawo wa zuwa kudu na baya wasu yi gaba sun rika ja su rika dawa suna kawo mutane ai wallahi las sai a haɗe ba ka jin komi
Ai akwai Fauziya Yusuf Ismail a ajin. Aje faita. Ai akwai Fauziya Yusuf Ismail a ajin. Aje faita. Ai akwai Fauziya Yusuf Ismail a ajin. Aje faita. Ai akwai Fauziya Yusuf Ismail a ajin. Aje faita. Ai akwai Fauziya Yusuf Ismail a ajin. Aje faita. Ai akwai Fauziya Yusuf Ismail a ajin. Aje faita.
Yes. Answer the question.
Rainy season, two classes in our school have been destroyed by a heavy rainfall, which led to the disruption of the academic activities.
Okay, we're going to start at 10 o'clock promptly with the video. Are you guys ready to flight the video? Yeah? And can we just double check that everybody online can see and hear? Yeah? We have sound, etc. No, I'm just going to tell everybody to settle down and then we start. How do I get this on?
It's on already.
Everybody, please take your seats. We will start in 1 minute. Please settle down. We'll start in 1 minute. Get ready to flight the video.
We are facing a lot of problems in our school, but the most concerned one, we are facing the problem of air. If you can see, as a result of heavy rainfall, heavy air, or wind, more classes are spoiled.
Muna fuskantar matsaloli da yawa na iska da ruwa masu ƙarfi.
This rainy season, 2 classes in our school have been destroyed by a heavy rainfall, which led to the disruption of the academic activities.
In Enugu, Nigeria, human activities has been the major drive of climate change in our environment.
Climate Change Club from Christian schools located at number 20 Housing Estate, Ababanike, Enugu.
Change can be seen as a thousands of climate change is burning of fossil fuels. It releases carbon dioxide into the air, causing the planet to heat up.
Solutions protect the oceans. Oceans also absorb large amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which helps keep the climate stable.
Na neman taimako ga gwamnati da kuma hukumomin da abin ya shafa da Allah a taimake mu a tallafa mu karatu.
So that we are calling to government and international agencies, donor, in order to make support to our school. Thank you.
Good morning. Our youth manifesto on the action on climate change and education.
It is our human right to learn.
It is our human right to be healthy, safe, and protected, to grow and thrive.
But climate change is increasingly preventing the realization of our rights.
Sometimes our movement is restricted, other times we are forced to flee.
We are losing our property and our livelihoods. Our harmony with nature and with one another is at risk. But we are the young people of Nigeria, and we will not stand by and let climate change and collective inaction steal our hopes and our dreams. We are the future of Nigeria, and this is our manifesto.
Fulfilling our right to education. Climate change already is and will continue to make it difficult and impossible for millions of children to go to school.
Many of our school buildings are unreachable and classrooms are unsafe.
This is directly limiting our ability to learn, work, and contribute to our families and communities.
We want to live our childhood and youth free of the worry that climate change will impact the realization of our rights or fulfillment of our basic needs.
We demand access to education in a safe and conducive environment.
We call on government at all levels to establish standards for safe school infrastructure that is resilient to the impact of climate change.
We call on our leaders at the local, state, and federal levels to keep us, our teachers, our head teachers, our malams, and especially the most vulnerable members of our education community safe by taking steps now to prepare and respond to disasters.
We call for swift, appropriate, and equitable responses when the disaster affects our communities and our schools so that we can continue learning and return to school as soon as possible.
And we demand that the public and private sectors take collective action needed to curb climate change and to prioritize education. No other generation should have to fight for access to essential services.
The education sector remains underutilized for catalyzing positive change. Climate change content has been added to the curriculum, yet many of us have rarely or never learned about it.
It is essential that education teaches us about our human rights and prepares us to take care of our health, each other, and our planet.
Education must teach us the knowledge and skills that we need to lead our society decentralized, just transition to a green economy.
We call on decision makers to ensure that every child and young person in Nigeria, regardless of the educational setting or educational level, participates in comprehensive climate change and environmental education with educators who are themselves empowered as positive role models.
We need to develop skills in agriculture, environmental justice, science, research, technology, politics, and decision-making to enable us to take action in our communities, contribute to leisure-based solutions, work and shape the future we want.
We call for learning networks among state and non-state actors to support our environmental education, bring skills development and training through internships, exchanges, and capacity building.
We demand that our education about climate change and the environment is gender inclusive and represent, protect, and honors local and indigenous people's rights and knowledge. This is our cultural heritage and our environmental responsibility.
Participation, decision-making, and funding. No decision should be made which affects our future without engaging us as primary stakeholders and partners in the process.
We call for the training of policymakers on how climate change affects education and how education can be used to address it.
We call for education laws and policies to address climate change and for climate change laws and policies to address education.
We ask our government, international organizations, and public and private financial institutions to urgently dedicate funds to address climate change in the education sector and prevent future catastrophe.
We demand that progress is regularly monitored and the results made public so that we can hold them accountable.
This is our manifesto because the future of Nigeria and the planet is our future. Thank you
very much.
Good morning, colleagues, and welcome to this seminar on climate change and education. My name is Sadhna Pandey Subrayan, and I am the Chief of Education at UNICEF Nigeria. And we started off today's session with a video, or collection of videos shot by young people from across the country, demonstrating or showcasing their personal experience of climate change in the classroom. It really wasn't a video that we curated ourselves. It was young people collecting this data and showcasing the reality that they are facing on the ground. So let's give those young people a big round of applause for being active on climate change. And then we had two young people, Adeneke and Albert, who worked with young people across the country to put forward their thoughts and their demands on climate change. So it wasn't somebody sitting in the background crafting a youth manifesto. It was children and young people from across the country through various platforms that UNICEF hosts, sharing their thoughts and their feelings and their experiences on climate change. So let's give a round of applause to Adeneke and Albert. I think you can do better than that. We've all had breakfast. Thank you, thank you. So very warm welcome, as I said, to this session on climate change and education. We're really very happy to see such a big turnout and that you've taken time out of your busy schedules to be with us this morning.
I am Tasu Samaila.
Can we mute the online audience, please? I'm also delighted to have... Can we mute the online audience, please? Colleagues, if you're online, please mute yourselves. Thank you. We're very happy to co-host today's seminar with UNDP and UNIC. Warm welcome to our colleagues from UNDP and UNIC, and really happy that we can partner with you on this event. We're also very happy to have with us on the speaker list and in the audience a vast network of young climate and education activists and who have been integral in the planning and hosting of this event. We're also very grateful to welcome the speakers and participants from the Federal Ministry of Education, the Federal and State Ministry of Environment, Federal Ministry of Science, Technology, Innovation, UBAC, NMAC, the National Council on Climate Change, other government partners represented. Colleagues, if you're online, can you please mute yourselves? Thank you. We see it as them being very enthusiastic to join us in the conversation, a little envious that they couldn't be here in person. So bear with us. Welcome to the teachers, the students, the development partners, academia, civil society, and private sector represented as well. There are many UNICEF colleagues who are circulating in the room and who are online from our field offices. This is work that they would take forward. So welcome to our UNICEF colleagues from the WASH team, from the education team, adolescent team. A very warm welcome to everybody. Now, my colleagues Sarah and Azuka, who have planned this entire event, have written me a long script on the purpose of this event. But it's very clear what we're doing here, right? We're trying to generate a conversation amongst all of us and create awareness around climate change and education. There's two things that we want to do with young people. We want to educate them so that they have the awareness, they have the knowledge and the skills to act in a responsible manner, but we also want to empower them. We know that the climate change movement has been started by young people across the world. And so Nigerian young people have been involved in one way or another, but we need to give them the skills, empower them, so that while we provide services, equally there's a demand created for services. So today's seminar is about education and it is about empowerment. An empowerment of young people, but also personal empowerment. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And they're rhetorical, but you can also have a show of hands. How many of you pitched up today with your own water bottle? How many of you pitched up today with your own water bottle? Secondly, I can see 2 people. How many of you, when you go shopping on a Saturday and Sunday, take a recyclable bag? Yes? How many of you are carrying your own shopping bags? or are we still relying on plastic from the shop? How many of you in your home and at your workplace, at minimum, recycle plastic and paper? How many of you at your workplace and in your home recycle plastic and paper? The responsibility to protect the climate and the planet does not only lie at an institutional level, it starts with every single one of us. And that's what we're talking about when we mention the word empowerment. We need personal empowerment. We need to empower institutions, families, societies to take this seriously. So to fulfill Sarah's and Azuka's request, we're convened here today to share how climate and environment change is impacting children's education and learning in Nigeria. We will identify the challenges which the education system and partners must collectively address, and we will share promising and effective initiatives, progress to date, and lessons learned from organizations who are working with government at the field level in Nigeria to integrate climate change education into our programming. A lot is happening on the ground that we can learn from, but much more needs to be done. We will identify common priorities for strengthening Nigeria's education system to be resilient to climate change. We see it happening all over in our backyard: flooding, desertification, fire. If it's not in your own backyard, it's somewhere else in another country. It's all over the TV. It's undeniable now. We're in the era of climate change and climate adaptation, and we all need to play our part and be ready and make sure that learning can continue when schooling is disrupted. So a couple of housekeeping rules, colleagues. In the interest of allowing all of our distinguished guests an opportunity to present their points of view, etc., I ask all the speakers to please keep to your time. If you're speaking from the floor, you have 30 seconds up to a minute to make your input so that as many people can speak as possible. Please put your cell phone on silent. If you need to take a call, please exit the room so you don't disturb others. Colleagues, if you're online, please make sure that you're muted so that the conversation is not disrupted. But let's have quite an informal discussion. We need it to be vibrant. We need it to be as interactive as possible. We have a lovely agenda set up for you, and I believe you have a copy. Next time around, when we're on climate change, we won't have a hard copy. We will send it to you electronically so that we don't have to print more paper. We have a few parts to the session. The first is a fireside chat on education and skills for community empowerment. The second session is a panel discussion with various government departments. Then we will have a response on what has been said. And lastly, we will close with some support that the UN is bringing. So now it is my pleasure to invite colleagues for the first session. And I'm going to invite the moderator to the stage. It is, and I hope I get the name right, Mr. Olumide. I can't do the surname. I'm going to struggle with the surname. He's a youth climate activist. He's from the International Climate Change Development Initiative. And joining him for this fireside chat would be Abu Bakr Hassan, Muntaka Mukhtar, who will be online, Joy Egbe, Abdul Tahir, and Mercy Efe. Colleagues, if you could come up front to join the moderator for the session, Olumide. Olumide, over to you. The session is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Okay, good morning, everybody. Yeah, my name is Olumide Idowu, and I'm the co-founder of International Climate Change Development Initiative. I'm very happy to be here. So today we are going to be actually looking at a very, serious conversation when it comes to climate change, and we're also talking about the children. And it's very important that we understand that as a country that we have a larger population of young generation, it's very important for us to take action on how we're going to, work towards making sure that they are also part of the ecosystem. And this session is actually going to focus on to understand from the perspective of those working at schools and community levels how climate change is affecting children's rights, and to learn on what must be done to mitigate the impact of climate change. We're also going to be looking at how to identify the role of state and local actors, and to also share what is working to empower young people through climate change and environmental education, and identify remaining gaps. And I also want us to please try as much as possible, get all your questions ready, because one of the greatest conversations we're going to be having here is some kind of local action in states, and how some experts are actually making sure that the environment is good. So with me here on the panel is Mr. Abubakar Hassan, is the Permanent Secretary of Gombe State Ministry of Environment. Then we have Muktaka, thank you very much. They also have Muktaka Mukhtar, Education Specialist, UNICEF Kano Field Office, is going to join us online. I also have Joy Egbe, is the co-founder of New Digits Technologies. She's joining us online as well. Then Abdul Hamid Taha, CEO of Global Environmental and Climate Conservation Initiative, is also joining us online. Then I have beside me our mother, Messi Efe Orishadipe, is a teacher from Government Science and Technical College. Thank you very much. Yes, so please let us try as much as possible to pick one or two things, most especially for people that are coming from other states, to see how we can continue to, implement some strategies they're going to be sharing with us in this conversation. So please, my speakers, remember 3 minutes is 3 minutes. I will not drag the mic, but I will just move. So thank you so much. So everybody will know that the conversation we're having today is also to make sure that, like from the opening speech, to make sure that the children also have a level of understanding, and also a level of how they can also be part of the conversation we are having on climate change. So I'm going to direct my first question to my mother beside me, Madam Messi. How is climate change affecting children's access to schools in your state? I think, yeah, in your state. And what are the most urgent actions needed to ensure safe and continued access to education? Thank you. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you for the question. You all know that I'm from the Delta State, specifically the coastal area, is highly vulnerable to the impact of climate change. We see the severe weather conditions. We experience flooding. And the time of flooding is a serious time where the whole buildings are submerged in water. The classrooms, buildings collapse. And then the students, they're out of school for the period. If they are lucky, they are evacuated. Some die in the water. And this is serious. And many of them, when such happens, you won't think about going back to school. You're struggling for your life, how to survive, how to get food, water, shelter. And apart from such, we see the learning materials destroyed, the whole buildings, roof, everything coming down in the water. Apart from the flooding, we also see cases of wildfire attack during the Harmattan season. Many of these students, they are agrarian family, all the farmlands wiped by wildfire. And then the building also, the classroom, they are all consumed. Those are the cases. Wildfire affects the schools, and students are temporarily out of school, and sometimes permanently out of school. Many never return back because of fear. And then we talk of the heat wave. At the time of the heat wave, it's another terrible time. We see the heat-related diseases. Many of them are affected. And because some of them are for poor family, they cannot afford the Medicare. And that's another reason why many do not return back to school. But coming to what we can do, number one, we need to reduce the vulnerability of school children in those areas through disaster mapping and hazard simulation. What do I mean? The student could be trained on how to respond to a disaster, and given simulation and training that when it is fire, wildfire, what do we do? These students are trained and then they are well equipped. Also, we also need to equip the teachers and the students through resilient teaching on how to respond to this disaster, assist the children when it occurs. Because it's not a time where we look for NEMA, but the school can also establish what we call a school-based disaster management committee. This committee, they are empowered, they are armed with all the resources needed to respond to disaster. It could be the fire outbreak, it could be earthquake, it could be flooding. And when all these are put in place, I believe the child will be confident to return back to school, knowing that there's safety and there's measures put in place to handle disaster and to take care of them. Because what we find that many of them are out of school. This has led to the number of out-of-school children we see today because of this effect of climate change.
Thank you so much for that, contribution. And you just mentioned some very, very, big issue that we are facing as, let me say, as a country. And you mentioning flooding, wildfire, and issue of classroom and heat wave. And many of us will be saying that most of all these problems are for some other continent. But looking at Nigeria, we are also facing a lot of this issue. And I'm very sure that this gathering will open our eyes to sort of solution that we have provided for this. I just want to know if we have Muntaka Mukhtar is online. I also want to hear from your own view. How is climate change actually affecting children in your own state as well? So we can unmute Muntaka, please. Okay. You have the floor, sir. Sorry, sir, we can't hear you. Maybe you should unmute your mic, please. Okay, I think it's from the control.
This is the problem. Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay. Your question is on how children access to school is affected by the climate change. And I've said that I'm going to talk in reference to northern Nigeria, and particularly to states of Kano, Katsina, and Jigawa. Just for a start, I want to let you know that there is a very high decline in water table, particularly in cities like Kano. And as a result of that, water scarcity is becoming longer and more severe. And the effect of that is that children, and particularly the girls in particular, must have to fetch water for household use, and they have to get to long distances before they can get that. And when they get to a distance, there is always long queue. Now, the result or the effect of that is that children, and particularly the girls, have to come to school late. They are affected by attendance, right? And there is always room for truancy for some girls who don't want to come to school. And significantly, as a result of that, you have that male children are at the risk of drop out of school. And in addition to that, children suffer increased workload and child labor at home because they have to provide to the family before they can get to the school. And because of that, they are always face a lot of threats to their physical well-being and protection. In states like Katsina, for instance, where we have the greatest crisis between herders and farmers, it has been able to push many children out of school. Many communities have been destroyed and relocated, and children are missing out of school. And significantly, many schools have been closed due to that crisis affecting schools. And by implication, it means the children will not be able to attend school. And recently, in terms of flooding, just like my Messi said, in terms of flooding, Jigawa experienced a heavy flood that pushed children out of their households and also out of their schools. And the schools were also affected, and they cannot go to school, and they cannot stay at home. So there are many ways in which we can say learning has been disrupted, and children are no longer going to school as a result of this climate change. Now, on what are the actions needed, urgent ones now immediately? I think we need to create more awareness on the impact of this climate change, especially among the learners, among the teachers, among the communities. An urgent need will be to provide wash facilities, build more boreholes, provide more latrines at the schools close to the families, and make sure that children can have access to water and they can get to the school on time. I think it's also very important that we need to find a way to empower the communities with knowledge and skills. Knowledge and skills for them to know how they can slow down climate change within their community. They need to learn skills, for instance, on how to slow down also the climate change in terms of skills, in terms of planting trees, in terms of using green energies, and maybe in places like Jigawa and Katsina, how do they improve on afforestation? And these are some of the few things I think we can practically do too. Beyond that, we can talk about issues around curriculum. Yeah. But this is how it has denied children access to school. Thank you, and over.
Yeah, thank you very much for that contribution. Please, can you give him a round of applause? Yeah, I just want to quickly look at the contribution from the two speakers. If you notice, they were able to carve out the issue of flooding. And they also, like she mentioned about how we can start empowering teachers to also transfer that knowledge. And I think it's one of the biggest action points that we need to take from this session, from this conversation, to start looking at how can we also, empower the teachers. You mentioned creating, instead of waiting for NEMA, we can create something like school-based and disaster, which I think is one of the greatest way to also inculcate that issue of climate education, so that they can be able to understand both the practical and the understanding of the school. So another thing I think is very, very important from this session is we talk about more awareness and more advocacy, so people can be more aware of the environment and also to be prepared for the future disaster. So thank you very much, Mr. Muntaka, and thank you very much, ma'am, for that. So we'll quickly go to our next session, and I'm sure I have Joy Egbe online, and also Mr. Abubakar. I have Mr. Abubakar here with me, right? Yeah, thank you very much. A lot of people have actually talked about, the role of local actors and some government response and conversation. So I just want to know from you and Joy, how can state actors, the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Education, even the CSOs and NGOs can work together to address the risk that children are facing in going to schools, and also the climate-related disaster, how is increasing. So what are those, the risks that the children are actually facing? Let me first of all start with Mr. Abubakar. Then we go to Joy online.
Thank you very much, our moderator. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, actually the question is how can states and local actors work together to address the risks that children face in going to schools as climate change risk increases day after day? Actually, the local actors, as well as the state governments and other civil society organizations, must collaborate, actually, in equipping the schools with knowledge skills and also change the values and attitudes needed to act as an agent of change towards mitigating the effects or risks of climate change, actually. This can easily be done once we can be able to work together to collaborate and transfer the knowledge and the necessary skills required. I'm very certain with time we can easily overcome the challenges posed by climate change. Similarly, there are other ways which includes developing a well-crafted policy measures and programs like in my state, Gombe State. When this government came in newly, in the first 1 year, we were able to first look at really the areas that are much, much impacted by the change, by climate changes. And this, we focus mostly on areas of flooding, issues of deforestation and afforestation. Then the government quickly went in and set in a program where we procure over 2 million seedlings. And we went ahead to plant those seedlings. We distributed them to schools, and we make sure that children were given the knowledge on how to nurture those plants to certain level of growth. And this has actually mitigated the impact of flooding as in the areas. Also, there is the need for the local actors to develop a kind of legal framework for enforcement of these measures. Definitely in those areas, there is need for us to look at it critically, and we have been working together as well with the local actors to see that we have developed a kind of framework whereby we make sure these measures we have put in place are actually enforced. And from time to time, we have a monitoring and evaluation team that goes around to ensure that actually these are in line with the programs already developed. In addition to that, we also try, we have worked together with the local actors to ensure that we have integrated a kind of climate change education in the school curriculum, whereby the children will start to learn and understand from the roots, from the start, how actually they can handle issues of environmental challenges. So all these are ways we have been working together with the climate, with the local actors, particularly the local communities, the schools, and also the civil society organizations. We make sure that these things is already in place. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, when you are listening to some set of people that make decisions for the ministry, it's very interesting that you've been able to mention what you said, school curriculum. And I think a lot of us sitting down here coming from different states, we're also looking at that critical part of climate change where we can have our, in the curriculum, where we can have the climate change education, because it's going to go a long way with the level of reach we have. So, and you also actually raise a lot of contribution on knowledge transfer, which I think is also very, very key for simulation and collaboration between all these actors. I just want to know, okay, Joy, I also want you to share some light on that, coming from your own side of experience. What can you say about this, working together to address the risk that children face in going to school and the climate-related disaster increases? You have the floor, Joy. Okay,
Hello,
Joy. Okay,
okay.
Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you, Olumide, for moderating and everyone that's spoken earlier. Um, climate-related disasters such as heavy rainfall, flooding, like every speaker I've mentioned earlier has a significant impact in the well-being of children, and especially when it comes to education. And when this crisis happened, it is the responsibility of our local climate actors and government ministry to ensure that these children are well protected and also they are able to access education. For me, to achieve one of the things I think that we have to start with is to increase community-based awareness. I know there are already awareness on ground, but we need to increase this community-based awareness and to teach people about the impact of climate change and the effects or the problem, the risk that children experience going to school. This kind of awareness will sensitize people to prioritize and catch children when environmental related problem happens. I know a lot of NGO like myself and other people I know are already at the forefront of this conversation, but I believe with the help of the ministry, relevant ministry agencies like the Ministry of Environment and Education, this conversation can and more people can be reached and more. The second thing I would consider is capacity building for schools, teachers, and local communities. I cannot emphasize the importance of capacity when it comes to disaster management. I know the first speaker mentioned about it. Something that's very important we also talked about to train teachers, schools, and communities on how to respond to environmental disaster when they happen, so that they have the skills and knowledge to, provide first aid response or climate emergencies, response emergencies. So this can help build their capacity in terms of response and resilience. And lastly, I would say assessment of future risks of disasters. I always say that when it comes to climate education and action, awareness is not enough. It's also very important that we are able to assess risks of the climate environmental crisis and able to make plans for it. So that when issues like the massive flood we had last year or in 2012 happen again in the future, we have shelters, we have provision and resources to make sure that displaced children have access to educational resources and they're even protected, especially children from low-income household and community who are most vulnerable to climate change. In the next few months, we'll be entering into another rainy season. And I thank God that some government agencies here. So I'm employing that they should make necessary arrangements, of course, in collaboration with other NGOs and local actors as well, to make sure that affected community are planned and prepared for. Thank you. Over to you, Lumide.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure that most of us were a little bit, kind, but let me just give some, maybe a summary of. She has actually mentioned community-based awareness, and she also emphasized on how children, how the all sectors need to collaborate together to make sure that they respond to issues that children are facing. And she also talked about awareness and how we can start creating that from the like bottom approach, so that everybody can be able to understand it. And she make emphasis to our last session about the risk assessment and response management that we need to start looking at. I just want to, bring some key points together from what Mr. Abubakar just mentioned. You both have actually looked at collaboration, which is key within all these local actors, which we need to take back to make sure that everybody is on the same page. You've also both able to share that we need a knowledge transfer so that this younger generation can be able to get ready, or how
policy reforms that will inform a better environment for everybody. And I think we also. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And lastly, I think we need to have a deliberate strategy by states, right, that will inform our response to climate change, rather than wait for it until it happens and we start thinking of how we're going to address it. We have to think ahead of. Look, in places like Kano now, air pollution alone in some areas like Jakara is more than a punishment for students in schools. Then how do we curtail these kind of things? How do we remove the dirt that comes along where the channels where we have many schools in Kano, for instance, Dakara area? So we have to think of strategically how do we address these issues on time. These are some of the lessons I want to share. And over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mutaka. That is very well noted. I think we should go straight to Abdul Hamid Taab from Global Environmental and Climate Conservation Initiative. Sorry, please just wait a little bit. We can't hear you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you can start.
My respected guests, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to share my thoughts through my accumulated wealth of experience over a decade in this aspect of climate change in Nigeria.
Mr. Abdul,
because we synthesize more
sorry, Mr. Abdul, please, can you try to move your mic
on this environmental issue on the campaign of good environmental practicing and climate change awareness campaign. And this thing was testified, if we check from the ministry, we got a spot from the Ministry of Environment of the state. I know Mr. Abakar is here, under their former commissioner, we got a spot based on this awareness campaign. But when we check, there is lack of sustainability. Even if we come together, this sustainability is the major challenge that happens in our various sectors on climate change. Because many things have been done.
Mr. Abdul, please, we can't hear you. I don't know whether it's possible for you to move your close to your mic.
Okay, but am I audible now?
Not really. Maybe more closer, please.
Can you hear me now?
Maybe you should speak more louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay, you can continue. Let's see whether it's going to be much better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
For those that can you hear me now?
Yes. Abdul, we hear you. Go ahead. It's the UN account that's muted. Go ahead.
Okay, so Abdul,
what I'm saying is that there is a lot of activities, or I can say the engagement that happens, even from the establishment of the clubs, environmental clubs in the primary school and secondary school. But the lack of sustainability.
Mr. Abdul, please.
Most of the state.
Hello, Mr. Abdul. Let me, if it's possible, just please drop your response to the chat box. Then we'll be able to get the feedback from the people that is managing the platform. Yeah, so that because we can't hear you, we can't get your response very well. It's very, faint. Okay, so not to waste our time, let me quickly just drop your comments into the chat box. Then we'll be able to read it out to people. Yeah, but from what I've been able to gather from Mr. Mutaka, I can say that there's a lot of things that is happening on ground. He has actually made us to understand that we still have people that doesn't really even understand what climate change is all about. And sometimes it's not their fault. It's because of some certain things that is actually happening that is going on. And he also mentioned that we need wider approach of how to communicate this issue. And there's need for a space for all these things to happen in the local community. He also mentioned that government need to start putting some policy that will allow climate change education to be more attractive to young people. And I think those things are very important for us to see as something that we need to take back and something that is actually affecting the impact of climate change in our society. Thank you very much. Please, Abdul, try to put your comment in the chat box. Then we'll come back to that. I want to know whether I still have. Oh, Abdul is even the next person I need to call again. But Abdul, I will come back to you. But let me go with my mother here, Mrs. Messi. So, with all this conversation that we are having, we also understand that there's a lot of, we talk about curriculum. If you have a curriculum and you don't have content, there's an issue to communicate with the children. So with your work and what other ways or other materials must be developed or systematically support to put in place? You've written a lot of book in that area, and Abdul has also done a lot of work with the grassroots so much that people actually want to learn more. So, and what step must be taken to move from classroom and club-based lesson to larger scale, larger change? So just let us know what are those things that, the ways you are doing it and those materials that you think is needed for these children to engage more on climate issue.
Thank you very much. I think more content areas need to be developed. Like we can develop a abridged version of climate change materials. We can look at literature in that aspect. Short stories on climate change, the impacts, and how we can take action, the young children can take action for the climate. Then we can look at drama, playlets, and some booklets, a brief version that they can connect and be able to make informed decisions, take action to protect the earth. For example, in our club in the school, the Eco Club, through the support of GSEP, the global initiative for food security, ecosystem and preservation, they have been able to empower the young people in the school, developing young heroes and eco champions. They are able to come together through the training and retraining. They are engaged in waste management of the school, creating waste to wealth projects. For example, they made some projects. They are able to make the heaps of plastic waste and turn them to interlock tilings. They even produce 9 inches block that you throw up down. No termite can destroy that. It's being used today. When you come to the school, you can see interlock flooring. These are the work of these eco champions. Today, I can tell you from 2018 up to this 2022, we have produced 6 sets of eco champions, and they have carried out advocacy from the school down to the community and down to the schools where they are in the polytechnic and higher institutions. They are there making cool money, cool cash. So that is what eco champions can do. So I want to thank you very much. I want to encourage every one of us to take action for the climate. Get more young people. These young people, when you train them, they will become powerful change agents. They will go down to the 774 local governments we have in our country, Nigeria. They will penetrate, and they will be able to get the schools, community leaders, even parents, young people, to take action to protect the earth and to make our country to be aware of the impact of climate change. And when we do that, they will make personal connection to climate solutions, everyone contributing, taking action to save the planet, to save the earth, and to protect the earth. Another way we can also move from a classroom-based, club-based, to the community and also to the larger society through advocacy, campaigns. We carry out campaigns. You see youth coming together, eco champions going out with campaigns. In fact, I was in the forefront of this campaign when we moved from the school level to the community. We sensitize every one of them to take action, to engage in waste management, recycling of waste. And then through the GSEF, we're able to donate the waste station where you segregate waste. We have the papers, the plastic, the bottles. We move out. In fact, we even went to an institution, a vocational school. We distributed this waste recycling, and then we have seedlings. At the school, we have a place in seedlings. We planted and make a nursery bed. the plants grew and we distributed them to the school. We planted them ourselves. The students, in fact, it was wonderful. So when we get all the students involved, the schools involved, maybe the school community involved, community leaders involved, and the women and men, they are involved. I'm telling you, we'll be able to protect the earth and, advocate for more climate actions. That will go a long way.
Thank you very much, ma. I just have to stop writing because you've already, it's just like you've created a new curriculum for children empowerment. And one of the greatest things that I'm seeing out here is not that you are only teaching, you're also, very, you are involved, and you also even understand the process now. And I think what I don't like now is that it's only taking place in your own area. So how do we now make sure that this goes, to Kano, to Kaduna, to Gombe? I think that's one of the, things that we need to start looking at now. That climate change is very, very important, and that different kind of components you've mentioned, waste management. You've talked a lot around young people turning waste to wealth. It's very, very key and very important. And I'm sure that a lot of us here sitting down here will be looking at also replicating this success in different local communities so that we'll be able to understand that it is not only by reading, but it's also by practical and making money from it. Thank you so much. I don't know if we can try once more, whether Mr. Abdul will be able to speak. If not, then you can still drop your comment. And I don't know whether he has already dropped the comment in the chat box. So, Mr. Abdul, can you just let us see whether we can hear you?
Thank you very much, moderator. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, try to just continue. Let's see whether we can grab something. Let me. Mr. Abdul, please, can you speak?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you online. Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much, Rezo. My respected guests, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to share my thoughts through my accumulated wealth of experience over education under my local initiative, which is called Global Environmental and Climate Conservation Initiative. Because we have been, since time, more than 40,000 schools in Nigeria. In the old part, we know that Nigeria is still the way that the place is very wide, from the southern to northern part of the country, with sensitized schools, primary school people, and secondary school students. We started on good environmental practicing and climate change awareness campaign, and we established environmental clubs, which we demonstrate how we can protect our environment from waste to wealth, from establishment of empowerment on charcoal briquette. This is what we have been done so far. And this was testified from the Ministry of Environment that we worked with them, Gombe State Ministry of Environment, under their former Commissioner of Environment, Mrs. Hussaina. This thing we have been done together. Also in Anambra State, we have been did together with the Ministry of Environment. In Lagos State, we did it together with the Ministry of Agriculture. But the challenge is sustainability. That is the major issues that happens when we went to school and we create all this awareness and the awareness from the students to the teachers, but there is no sustainability. Now, if we check the projects, maybe if we went to these various schools, there is no sustainability. So that is the challenge here, that we need to be more inactive, where there is a sustainability in all the projects that we are doing in most of these cases. Because the issue of climate change is already here, it's knocking everyone doors, even if we realize it or even if we don't realize that. Because many people from the grassroots, they don't know all about the issue of the climate change. When you went there, for more especially as a student, these students, when we went there for the captain young, they may start realizing, they may start understanding what all about this climate change, because it's affecting us, as we know, and also those that are causing this problem, they are from the grassroots. They are not here that we are discussing now. So when we reach the student has also inform their children. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. Thank you, moderator.
Yes, thank you very much. I think you've merged the two questions together. I just want to also raise the point that the issue of sustainability is very, very key. Is what you just said when you say you work with Minister of Agriculture in Lagos State, and stepping down and taking it forward should be a way forward for us to make sure that sustainability is one of the key things that we need to look at. I also want to say that your work around charcoal briquettes, I think Mrs. Messi have also mentioned a lot of activities they are doing, and I can say that we are all on the same page. We just have to make sure that we spread this opportunity to more children for them to understand that climate change is real and the impact of climate change is very real on us as well. Thank you so much. But if you still have other comments that you want to make, please just drop it in the chat box so that we can get that as our feedback. So thank you very much. I think I'll be going to my last question now. And I don't know, I still have Joy. Okay, Joy is online. And I'll be coming back to Mr. Abubakar as well. So we've listened to the last session, and we've been able to understand that a lot of actions have been, taken when it comes to engaging grassroots directly and transferring knowledge to them. So what are the potential partners or partnership should we actually, explore between public and private sector, schools and local businesses to amplify the impact of climate change education initiative? Let me first of all go to Joy, then we come back to you. Joy, just 2 minutes, please. Yeah. Joy, you are muted.
Joy, unmute, please.
Joy, please unmute yourself so that you can speak.
Audible.
Good.
Hello.
Good. Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Olumide. I believe the question you asked was around partnership between local actors and schools or businesses for climate education. So it's really important that partnership for me is really crucial when it comes to amplifying climate education. And a lot of speakers have spoken about the work they have done. Regarding my organization as well, one of the major things when it comes to working with organization is sustainability, like Tahid mentioned earlier. But I believe that to move this conversation forward, partnership, local organization of businesses and NGOs can partner with schools to train teachers on climate education. This is just to empower teachers to be able to communicate climate information and content best in schools, because when NGOs and local organizations go to this school, most times sustainability is a problem. So we have to make sure that we are able to transfer this knowledge and through partnership to teachers so that it can be part of the programs of the school and you don't have to rely on external organizations. So this kind of partnership with schools to make sure that the knowledge is transferred to school itself is a key important. And secondly, I also mentioned that partnership with local organizations and traditional leaders in communities for informal climate education is also important that we should talk about, because these traditional leaders are the ones who understand this community in their own language.
we can partner with other stakeholders in trying to enlighten, provide more enlightenment, more advocacies to local communities, schools, train workers in the schools, and then teach, impart more knowledge on them so that they can mitigate these things. There are so many other ways we can also partner in ensuring that we provide certain things, teaching materials in the school, like firstly, equipments like fan, air conditioners, where we believe is needed because the heat is excessive, is too much, and therefore there are some schools that when you get there, students cannot be able to learn, they cannot do anything because of the level of heat. So you need to, and there are no even funds in those schools. We can collaborate, partner, and provide those kind of things in those schools so that the students can find it so easily to sit and study. There are issues of drainages in schools. We need to also partner with civil society organizations and also other private organizations so that we can build more drainages in those schools and those areas prone to flooding or disasters caused by climate change. Also, we can provide film shows in schools. We make a lot of campaigns. We provide schools with projectors. And we continue from time to time to come and project films and project other pictures where there are issues of climate change, showing them the impact caused by this climate change in the other countries of the world. And we let them know that this thing is not just for one part of the world, but for every part of the world. If it has not happened to them today, they should expect it tomorrow. So anything can happen. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abubakar, for that wonderful contribution. I just want to say that both you and Joy have actually, covered some very key points for us to understand that partnership is very key in achieving climate change education. And I also want to say that one of the biggest things that is very, very important is for the businesses to see it as a CSR and contribute. You are mentioning that we need to contribute and buy some stuff for the schools. I think CSR, we also need to invest more in that so that on the long run, we will have what we call investment opportunities for the young people. Because of our time, thank you very much to all my speakers. I think from all this action that we've put out there, we'll be able to implement some of these and make sure that we have a concrete climate change education to younger generation that we have. Please, a round of applause for my speakers. Yes. Before I leave, just for the sake of contribution, I just want to know if you have a comment in 2 minutes from the audience, then we end from it. Yeah. Okay, I'm very happy. I can see a student raising his hand up. Okay, no gender, please. Can we have a female? Okay, let us give the, because we are talking to children, let us give him the opportunity to ask. Yeah. In 30 seconds, please.
Good morning. Please, mine is not a question.
Use your mic, please.
Mine is not a question. I'm trying to add something. To me, I think non-governmental organizations should be more affected, they should be more invited into this climate change. Because in schools now, I'm not sure we should wait on government for everything. Because most times if you wait on government, they will not actually give you what you want. So now, if you want to say private organizations, they will come with different from, in my school now, we have Sahel and we have Duke of Edinburgh. Now, these things now, they make provisions for the students, like it's a club. But now in this club now, we have only 10 participants. Like the Sahel and the Duke of Edinburgh, we have 16 students out of 800 students. So now, in that sense, we planted trees, we planted flowers in the school around for climate. In this way now, how are you going to carry this into the over 800 students if there are only 10 in a school? Now we're in FCT, I'm sure we have the chances to get this. All these schools that are outside, that don't have non-governmental people to go close to them and advocate or support them in different ways. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very sure that we have a lot of NGOs here. Give me a round of applause. We have some NGOs there. They are going to look into that and to make sure that they spread the gospel of climate change to all other states. It's very, very important. Thank you for that question. I don't know if I should take one more shot in 30 seconds, please. Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I got the mic. Sorry. My name is David Michael. I work for GSEP. I'll just share lessons learned.
30 seconds.
Yes. So I've been working with schools, about 70 schools in the FCT. We have environmental clubs in those schools. And I'm very happy to see one of the matrons here. And one of the key lessons is that the teachers themselves do not have adequate capacity and understanding of climate change issues. So you have just geography teachers and agri teachers who have some understanding of environmental issues. And what you have in the textbooks is basically geography and civic education. And you have just the definition of climate change and climate, and it ends there. So one of the things we're able to do was to publish a book, Understanding Climate Change for Secondary Schools in Nigeria. And one of the things I think we can quickly do is to look at the NCE, what do you call the NCE? Where the teachers training schools, right? Sorry?
NTC.
Okay, National Commission for Colleges of Education, where teachers are trained. That is where it should start from. And then from there, it steps down to the secondary schools, because training the teachers in just one workshop or two is not enough. Climate change is science, and science has to be taught properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please give our speakers a round of applause. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. So I think we go to the next program. Thank you so much, Mike.
All right, colleagues, we can do better than that. Come on, let's give them a rousing round of applause. I feel like they went through fire and brimstone and everything to get their messages across. It feels like we went back to the start of COVID, when the mic was working, the video was not working. When the video was working, the mic was not working. But we got through it and we managed to get some of those key messages. So well done to the panel. Thank you very much. We've had some very insightful comments. Let's give them one more round of applause. Brilliant. So I want to say a very warm welcome to the audience that is on live stream. I want to say a big, big welcome to the 99 colleagues who are online and seem to be having a fantastic time because they hear everything and we're not able to hear. It's the opposite way around this time. A very big welcome to the UN Resident Coordinator's Office, who is here and has been walking this journey with us. You're most welcome. Let's give the Resident Coordinator's Office a warm round of applause to welcome them to the meeting. So colleagues, a couple of things that have come out of this session. We've talked about climate change being very real. People are experiencing on the ground wildfire, heat waves, flooding, water scarcity. And because it's all happening so quickly, we think it's an act of God, something that is, spiritual, out of our control. And yet all of this is man-made. All of this is man-made and is within our control and our power to change the path that we are taking. We've talked about what are the things that can be done? How do we empower teachers? How do we empower learners? How do we create community awareness? We need to set up school-based disaster management committees. We had some very real examples from Gombe State of policy measures being taken, needs assessments being done, and very tangible action being taken. So we need that knowledge exchange to happen across the different states, across communities, etc. Couple of other things that stood out for me is that we see a bottom-up approach in action on climate change. The people are acting. The people are responding to what is happening on the ground. And as policy makers, as decision makers, we need to do a bit of catch up to move us away from a project-based approach to a system-wide approach. The speakers said that very nicely. We need to move away from small, fantastic projects to acting with urgency at scale, and that needs government in leadership. There's no shortage of people who want to do the right thing, who want to act, but we need government, civil society, private sector to come together and say, what do we need to do and how do we need to do it? So people are ready to take action. They are primed for it. We need to bring them along and make sure we do the right things all of the time. And then the last comment was around multi-sectoral action. This is not something that will be solved by a single institution. Government can only provide to a certain extent. Communities need to come together, the private sector, NGOs, etc., acting in concert with each other on common purpose on climate change. So fantastic session, was wonderful to hear all of these inputs. And now what we're going to do is take a short 10-minute leg stretch. If there's some tea available, I believe we drank it all up in the first session. So if there's some tea, there's water, it's an opportunity for you to network. We'll take a 10-minute leg stretch. On my clock, it's 11:19. We will resume at 11:30 promptly. So it's 11:20. We will resume again at 11:30. And before I let you go, I want to extend a very warm welcome to my sister, Dr. Fulake. Thank you so much. She's the director at Basic Education. You are most warmly welcomed to the meeting. So colleagues, 10-minute leg stretch, and then we start again. Thank you.
Hello, Kalsum. Kin ji yadda labari ya kasance ko? Na
Your
fatuwa.
colleagues online, please mute your microphones. Thank you.
Okay.
That's what's here. I'm wondering, Madam. Sir, I'm not here. Is the one day the ball I think last week?